Ladies and gentlemen, this is an extremely important segment. Hit subscribe to this channel. Tell your friends about this segment, especially if you support President Trump, like I do. I used to be the biggest Bernie Sanders booster on the internet, according to the Huffington Post. I used to be the unofficial scribe of Sanders' most hardcore voters, according to the Washington Post. That was in 2016. You can go to my website, hagoodman.com. You could read my writing on The Hill, The Huffington Post, Salon, The Jerusalem Post, The Federalist, The Roanoke Times, other publications. You can see my debates. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you in this segment the reason why we have the political climate in the United States of America that we do. By the way, stay safe today. Enjoy today. I'm a Raiders fan. I love the Raiders. I loved the Los Angeles Raiders, the Oakland Raiders, and now the Vegas Raiders. I love the Raiders. I still want the Chiefs to win, and I'll tell you why. I'll tell you why a little later on, but I hope the Chiefs win. The Raiders beat the Chiefs this year, so I can say at least that the Raiders beat the Super Bowl champions. But anyway, that's another story. Be safe. Enjoy the game today. Ladies and gentlemen, voting for President Trump was a moral imperative if you wanted to bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts and quagmires and endless military conflicts that Lincoln Project people started. You can see right now the Lincoln Project has skeletons being unearthed. They have more skeletons than a graveyard. They're done as a political force, or they were never a political force, but they're done as a political entity within the Democratic Party. Democrats used the Lincoln Project people to try to portray the image or the sense or the public relations spin that there were good Republicans. There were good Republicans. Ladies and gentlemen, the good Republicans that Democrats are speaking of don't exist. Democrats just want to win at all costs. They don't care. Look what they did to Bernie Sanders. They don't care at all. President Trump came in. He made some missteps, but he achieved great things. Peace between North and South Korea. The beginning of a roadmap towards peace. President Moon Jae-in told Biden that he wants the current administration to continue President Trump's legacy. Same with Benjamin Netanyahu in Israel, with the Abraham Accords. There's economic deals between Serbia and Kosovo. President Trump achieved great things. He was the first president in decades not to have started and commenced a new theater of conflict, of military conflict. There were things that he did that were profound and paradigm changing. I'm voting for President Trump because if you wanted to bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts, it was a moral imperative. The same quagmires and interventions and regime changes that Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld and President Obama continued, especially in Libya. And in places like, Hillary Clinton wanted a no-fly zone above Damascus. So you look at the Democratic Party, you look at the Republican Party, and President Trump has broken the mold. He's changed the way of doing business in D.C. The GOP, the Republican Party, is now Trump's political party. End of story. No debate. It's just a matter of time before Donald J. Trump controls the entire political party, entire Republican Party. 2022 will be the time that President Trump, because of the primaries, midterm primaries, where never Trumpers and Republicans in name only will be just kicked out, the politicians or the candidates that espouse President Trump's ideology on economic policy, on foreign policy, which is anti-intervention. So it's a moral imperative to vote for President Trump if you want to bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. He ended officially the war in Afghanistan. He ended covert operations. So there was the regime change in Libya that President Obama presided over that destroyed a country and caused it to become a failed state. It was not a failed state before President Obama became president. Libya became a failed state after President Obama became president. It is a moral imperative to have voted for President Trump if you wanted to end regime change and interventions. Was he perfect? No. President Trump made missteps. He should never have insulted LeBron James. He should never have insulted NFL athletes. He should never have utilized Twitter in the way that he did. There's a Business Insider article saying that he's happy he was banned off of Twitter. So Twitter helped him tremendously. Twitter helped President Trump tremendously. I mean, it was just the best thing that ever happened because now we can actually focus on his accomplishments. Democrats now have nothing to talk about. The left is yawning and completely bored, and they don't really care about Biden's executive orders. They don't care about Biden's executive orders. You have forced the vote now. Jimmy Dore is a hero. With Jimmy Dore, Nico House, there's a whole bunch of people, progressives, on the left, forcing the Democratic Party to implement Medicare for all. They have the House, they have the Senate, they have the presidency. What more do they want? What more do they need to force Medicare for all? They've spent 4 years. You know how much money? You know how much money in venture capital funding and donations that certain pundits have received from pushing Medicare for all? Good for them. We live in a capitalist society, but if you deceive people, see, the grift, leftists love to use the term grift. The biggest grifters yell Medicare for all, and then when they have the House, the Senate, and the presidency, you have pundits that say, gosh, we can't have Medicare for all now. Now is the only time. You're not. The 2022, you're going to get annihilated in the House by the Republican Party, and it's going to be Trump Republicans. President Trump will completely obliterate and complete control and complete his quest for control of the Republican Party in 2022. There aren't going to be Ben Sasse and Mitt Romney Republicans. Look what happened to them in Nebraska and Wyoming. So you look at Jimmy Dore, he's forcing a vote. What does that show? It shows that AOC and Bernie Sanders are there simply for one purpose: to funnel votes back into the Democratic Party from very idealistic, naive but good and noble and honorable and gullible progressives who have these lofty ideals that they'd rather cling to than realize what's really going on. The Democrats don't want Medicare for all. That's a Green Party policy. Why don't you just simply grow the Green Party or the People's Party or the Democratic Socialists of America? Or if you want to be a socialist, just say you're a socialist. And I think there's a political party there. I'm not sure. I don't really care. But start your own party. The Democrats don't want Medicare for all. It's not something that they want. It is not something that they want. My God almighty, what more has to happen for you to realize if you're on the left? The Democrats are a liberal version of the Republican Party, or the Republican Party before Trump. Jeb Bush and Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer are the same people. George W. Bush and President Obama are the same people. They're not different. They're not different. You've seen them join forces and engage in this love fest because of the monster Trump. Now, Trump should have not utilized Twitter in the way that he did, because in this political reality, perception overshadows actual accomplishments. You can accomplish great things as President Trump accomplished great things. Okay? He utilized the United States military in the manner that it should have been, or at least more so in the manner that it should have been utilized. Not as a regime change interventionist force, but as a military body that should be utilized only for specific military objectives. General Daniel Bolger wrote a book called Why We Lost. It basically said, look, we have the most powerful military in the world. It should be used only for quick and decisive victories, and then the military leaves. And then the politicians come in. You cannot have counterinsurgency doctrine, hearts and minds, American soldiers patrolling cities, facing adversaries in flip-flops and RPGs. You cannot do that. And what drives me, ladies and gentlemen, and what has always driven me, and the reason I was a Bernie Sanders supporter before I found out he was a tool and he might be a good person, but he's a political fraud. That's obvious. And what drove me to President Trump from Bernie Sanders is that I wanted somebody to end regime changes and interventions, to bring home Americans from never-ending counterinsurgency conflicts. You cannot send even the most powerful military. The Soviets learned that in Afghanistan. The French learned that in Vietnam. We've learned that in Vietnam and Bush, Cheney, and Rumsfeld's interventions and President Obama's interventions. We've learned that the most powerful military in the world cannot force a political reality upon certain regions of the world that don't want that political reality. I want Americans home. I want American soldiers home from endless quagmires. I want them back home to their fathers, their sons, their mothers, their daughters, their fathers, their mothers, their daughters, to see the daughters and sons, their husbands, their wives, their families, their friends. I want them home. I don't want the children of veterans to serve in the same theater of conflict. It's never happened in American history, ladies and gentlemen. It's never happened. We've never had a military conflict that's lasted long enough for veterans to see their children in the same conflict. And the Karl Rove, Bush-era liberal Democrats say, well, you have Germany and Japan. Those were never counterinsurgency conflicts after the wars were over. But what's my point in this segment? My God almighty, my point is that President Trump has kicked out and annihilated and obliterated the Never-Trumpers. They're gone. They're done. It's just a matter of time before President Trump presides over a Republican Party that actually has a singular voice and stands for something. The Ben Sasse, Mitt Romney, Susan Collins, Lisa Murkowski, Richard Burr type Republicans who would investigate President Trump because they knew very well he didn't work with Russia. That's an absurd tinfoil hat, conspiratorial, irrational theory that was never valid. There was never a reason to investigate whether President Trump worked with Russia in 2016. Could you imagine if the same allegations were leveled in this election? Oh my God almighty. But the reason you have social media banning people, the reason you have Hollywood and late night and the Washington Post and the New York Times and MSNBC and CNN and intelligence operatives, the reason you have a virtual monopoly on political thought coming from the left, the reason you have only apoplectic, seething, fanatical, hysterical zealots who happen to be, morally superior liberals. The reason they control and run political discourse in this country is because there's no Republican opposition. I'm not a Republican. I'm not a Democrat. But there's zero Republican opposition. Why? Because you have the people who say, one of these days, we're going to have a good, wonderful Republican Party that comes back to the Jeb Bush and Mitt Romney years with the good, perfectly coiffed Republican Party. I mean, the only thing Mittens Romney did was put his dog on top of his car on a cross-country voyage, which nobody sane or humane does, but he did it. And Jeb Bush is a good Republican. And George W. Bush, he was with Jimmy Kimmel. And Jimmy Kimmel, I guess, didn't care about the hundreds of thousands of traumatic brain injuries and PTSD, people who suffer from PTSD from counterinsurgency conflicts, because Jimmy Kimmel, he can just apologize for all his indiscretions that should have canceled him out a long time ago. But this world is just pure public relations now, and there's zero opposition. Because Republicans are not an opposition party right now. They will be in 2022. Hopefully. I think they will. Once you have Devin Nunes, who is a hero, Devin Nunes, Jim Jordan, Matt Gaetz, Richard Grenell, Mark Meadows, Ron DeSantis. You have these Republicans and Republicans that take over the Republican Party that are anti-interventionist and more along the lines of President Trump. There's no stopping the Republican Party. I don't even care about the Republican Party, but there's no stopping President Trump. If President Trump learns from his missteps, you look at what 16, 17 minutes in, and people say, what does this have to do with the title? Well, 17 minutes in, Liz Cheney and Ben Sasse, they were they were censured and experienced a rebuke and condemnation from the Republicans within their political party. Why is that? Because they spent their lives as never-Trumpers. And President Trump basically controls the Republican Party, but the Republicans don't know it yet. And that's the issue. He's kicked them out. They don't realize it yet. They'll realize it in 2022. Instant impeachment in 2022. How are they of Biden? How are they able to, because of Caligula, how are they able to utilize a Steele dossier, accuse Trump of being a despot? All of these things marginalize 74 million supporters of President Trump, not because of the Democratic Party. Don't blame the Democratic Party, people. Ladies and gentlemen, 18 minutes in, really important. Don't blame the Democratic Party. It's not their fault. Not their fault. Okay? They're going to do what they're going to. You don't blame a great white shark if he devours you. You blame somebody who pushes you into the water. That person's the real problem. The Republicans have been inept, weak, pathetic, sad, corrupt, and in many cases just as evil and nefarious as the Democrats. They stabbed President Trump politically in the back. And once President Trump completely revitalizes the Republican Party in 2022, and that'll happen, there will be an opposition. You won't see people being banned. You won't see just one political narrative. It's going to take time, people. It's going to take about 2 years. Or longer, but I think about 2 years. Anyway, give me your thoughts below. Give me your thoughts. Thank you so very much. Be safe today. Have a great Super Bowl Sunday. Thank you so very much. I'll be back numerous times today. Thank you.